Welcome to MMA Fancast. My name's Luke, and I am joined by two friends of the show and friends of mine, Gavin Teasdale and newly professional MMA fighter, Taylor, the American Dream, Cahill. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks. That was awesome.
I tried. You got on the show
I enjoyed part of it.
Well, right before your fight down in Brazil, which we're going to get to, you talked on this show. I appreciated you talking about why you are calling yourself the American Dream. And that was a great video. So for anybody who wants to check out why Taylor's going by the American Dream, check out the last video he did about his pro debut. Looking forward to his pro debut in Brazil. Good to see you, Gavin, as always, as well. You're looking lean, and I know you guys just both finished a workout, but let's get to the exciting part. You went down to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, over Labor Day and got a huge under a minute rear naked choke win in the first round. Very impressive against the guy who was 1-1, had 2 pro fights, which is really great. So let's just, before we get to the fight, what was it like traveling to Brazil? I know you were down there about a week before. So let's talk about the pre-fight, then we'll get to the fight.
It was different. But I think the whole time in my head, it was what I was supposed to do. It's where God put me at that moment in my life. And I think that it's destiny. So, I wasn't really overwhelmed at any part, and the guys at BTT and the coaches at BTT, they accepted me with open arms, and, it was a phenomenal experience. I honestly wish that, Tanner and Gavin could have been there with me. But in due time, hopefully we can set our sights on January and we can all get down there. 'Cause the training is world class and the atmosphere is contagious. It's amazing down there. So
I saw from Facebook that you were you had some gym buddies down there, some training partners down there. Was that all through gestures? Did they speak any English? I know sometimes in fighting you don't really need to speak the same language because the same language is MMA. I was curious about that.
Daniel Hortigas, that's one of Danilo's good friends. He fought an American Top Team back in the day, and just left Rio Fighters. He's a jiu-jitsu world champion. He speaks really good English, so he was kind of my translator. He took me under his wing, and we explored Rio together. And then on the other side, I had Delano, Zach Delano, fighting for the LFA title September 30th in Recife, Brazil. And those two were kind of like my brothers down there for the time being. So they showed me around, and they both spoke a great deal of English. So it was great having them and great training with them.
And given the fact that you were going into your pro debut, your training was more about polishing, right? You weren't really able to do a lot of hard training down there. What was it like getting the weight on point? You've never had a problem. I've seen you weigh in before. I'm just saying, as far as building up to your pro debut, how smooth was that?
Luke, I'm a professional.
I know you are.
That's one thing about American wrestlers. We don't miss weight. I don't care what the weight is, what I have to make, or what we have to go through. I mean, what he had to go through on 4 days' notice to make that that weight class for the LFA in Niagara Falls, there's something to be said about it. And that's all wrestlers. We're held to a different standard. We're just tougher. So the weight class didn't bother me. And kind of to piggyback on the training, I think they thought I was a little crazy because when those guys were resting fight week, I was training because I was there for business, and there was a lot of resources there that I couldn't pass up. The knowledge that I could get maybe from 5 minutes of their time might change, the way I look at MMA forever. So I was in there and I was training hard the whole time because, again, wrestlers, that's what we do every single day. So I don't really need as much rest. I'm durable, man. So.
Well, it's good. And like you said earlier, you were praising God for the opportunity because the timing is perfect, but the timing might not always be exactly what you want. And you were on the show, and obviously it's been about a year since your last amateur fight, now your pro fight. So another thing that you can be thankful for is that your durability, the fact that you were able to be healthy down there. Now, I saw that your parents made the trip, which how incredible is that? What was it like having them down there?
I was going to come out to Renegade by Sticks if they didn't come, but my mom and dad were there, so I had to change it up. It was amazing. I'm very grateful for them. They're special people. There's you know, I know, no words can really express, the thanks that I have to give them. They do everything for me, so they wouldn't miss it. My mom and dad were scrambling, jumping through a bunch of hoops to try to get to Brazil, because I kind of just said, hey, I'm going, and this is where I got to go. This is what I need to do right now. I can't get a fight here. There was a lot of things that I needed to address in my personal life that I felt that the place to be was Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And I kind of just got on the plane and said, hey, I'm going down and I'm fighting somebody because I'm not afraid of anybody. And we're going to go down there and we're going to just dominate somebody. And that's what we did.
Well, now that's the perfect tie-in to the actual fight. And obviously a shout out to your parents. I know your dad's been very supportive, and your mom, of the shop that where you guys are right now. The shop is a big part of your parents' support of you and of your brother and your other brother, as you mentioned. Walk us through the fight. I know it wasn't long. I know for sure it was under a minute, might have been under 40 seconds. I know it was pretty short. What was it like getting in there? You felt your range, you got a nice shot. There was some scramble, some control, ground and pound, and then you finished up with your naked choke. But give me your perspective on the fight as long as it lasted.
I think that it was actually 3 minutes. I'm not completely sure.
Oh, okay.
Time's a blur though in there. Honestly, I don't know. I would listen to you before me.
Oh no, if you said it was 3, I was watching a clip on Facebook, so it may not have been. I remember watching you guys touch gloves. I thought it was maybe under 2 minutes, minute and a half, but I'm not sure, and it hasn't been updated on Tapology. I just looked before this interview to see the finish, but it was definitely in the first round. Fair enough.
Yeah,
good enough. Take us.
I knew it would be in the first round.
Yeah.
I'm having fun with this. My last fight, I texted Danilo 3 days before the fight and said, Katagatami Day, August 7th. I don't know, trying to speak Portuguese, and I hit Brandon Harrington and a Katagatami in the 3rd round and finished him. And then when I was fighting Carlos Giovanni, I was convinced that I would knock him out with my right hand. He fell through, and ever since I got my new opponent, I was, telling people that rear naked choke was what I was going to finish him with. And I said that I was going to take him down. I was going to beat him up a little bit, and I was going to finish him late in the 1st round or early in the 2nd. And I did exactly that. I'm on a different level, and I got the best training partners in the world that I feel. And one thing that I think that really helped me with my pro debut, and I hate to say it because when one of us loses, it's like a death in the family. We pour our heart and soul into this, but seeing somebody like Gavin Teasdale go out and go to war like he did and come up short and be okay with it and accept it because of the way he fought, I had no pressure. So I wasn't nervous in there because if he can lose, a guy that never loses in anything, then it's not a big deal if I lose. Right. So there was no pressure, and I just went in there and I just did my thing. And I knew that as long as I fought like he did, everybody would be proud of me and I'd be able to look myself in the mirror. So I just went out there and I executed my training and I did exactly what I said I was going to do. And I think it's a big moment. I think that's a big moment for, my career and kind of what we've been saying this whole time. I'm different, and I'm an American that went to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil for a pro debut, and I finished the guy and I predicted it. I'm not like these other guys like Mitch McKees and Bryce Meredith that are fighting guys that are, 65 years old and look like they have a stick in their ass. And they're clearly just, and I'm not throwing shade on them, but the guys that they're fighting they're clearly placed there, so I think the American people are going to like it. We got a long way to go, and, that one's in the rearview mirror already. Like we said, we're already in here training hard. And you're only as good as your last win. So I'm looking forward to the next one and looking forward to the World Championships in Spain. And then we're going to go back and, Ed's going to go to work and get us a fight in the LFA.
Well, you mentioned Gavin Teasdale. If he's still around, call him back over so I can ask him a couple questions. But
you got him.
Okay, great. There we go. Thanks, Taylor. Hey, buddy.
Brazil went.
Did you go down to Brazil? I knew you had a fight up here, didn't you?
I fought Pedro down there. That's his
No,
name.
that was a matchup. But I don't think that happened.
carry on because I didn't have a passport, so he had to smuggle me in
Yeah, in a suitcase? Like, how'd you get in?
a small little bag.
Well,
I want-
I'm sure it was a little disappointing that you couldn't go down to Rio de Janeiro with Taylor, because I saw you on the list that you had a match down there that obviously didn't happen. But if I could ask you, Taylor, qualified to go to Spain. So did Tanner to go to Spain for represent.
I was on-
What?
Toby now is on the team, so four brothers on the team.
Oh, wow. Oh, well, fantastic. So if I could ask you a little bit about what you're looking forward to in Spain, and then Taylor alluded to you having a decision loss in your pro debut. You fought really well. I watched the fact that you landed a knee. You landed a knee to your opponent's face 10 seconds to go, which would have been almost 14 minutes, 50 seconds. You were still the fresher, sharper fighter at that point, even though the decision went against you. So if you could talk about what it was like making your pro debut, going a hard 15 minutes, looking good even in the loss, and then also about what you're thinking about with the Spain trip coming up.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, since my first fight, I had a few adjustments to make. But going into this one, I just went out there and let it fly. Like, I wasn't thinking about anything else, just getting my hands on him. And whatever comes to me, it's going to come to it. Like, I'm going to go out there, look for elbows, punches, knees, whatever comes, I'm going to take it when I go out there. But, I mean, if you give it your all for those 15 minutes, that's all you can ask of yourself. So, I mean, you can't leave it in the judge's hands. And that's what Tay did real good in his fight. He capitalized the opportunity. He went out there and beat the guy in the rear naked choke. I had the opportunity and his hip fell out to the side. Then after that, I mean, you only get one or two of those opportunities. So you got to capitalize on those when they come to you. But yeah, there's bits and pieces I can take about my fight. But you know what? Give the dude credit. He got the job done, a little bit more experience. But looking back on it, I feel like I beat him in striking. I beat him with wrestling. I beat him with jiu-jitsu. But in the end, it comes to those judges. So that's why you can't leave it in their hands. But
Well, yeah.
I know it's drawn out.
Yeah, exactly. Like you mentioned something very direct and realistic, which is you were adjusting to a rule set that you literally have never had before, which is why I mentioned the knee that you landed 10 seconds to go. It can take people a long time to adjust offensively and defensively to things like knees, elbows, because they are special to the pro ranks. You're a pro now. Sounds like you already had really good moments in the fight. You just listed down your moments. As far as striking, clearly that's something you're adding to your world level wrestling. What has been the most enjoyable part of learning striking for you? Any aspect of striking?
Decipher boxing from MMA striking. Because boxing striking, like when you bob and weave like that, you could leave your face open. You go to the side a little bit too much, you'll get a left face. So we've been doing some boxing up in Pittsburgh with one of our coaches up there. But then again, it's hard to decipher the two. That's why this sport, you're combining so many things in one. You're combining Muay Thai, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, striking. There's just so much shit going on that you get knocked out with. So you got to respect the dude's strength before you go out there, but also get to where you're good at. And if you go out there and fight it's a dog-eat-dog environment. It's going to be hell. You can hear the door getting locked in the background so you know it's game on. So you got to prepare for the worst, but know what you're capable of. So what's the point of getting all that training in if you're going to go out there and choke? Go out there, let it fly. And if you come up like a little bit short, you know what? Who gives a shit? You live on another day. Don't live in the past, live in the future.
And that's great advice coming from you, a legendary high school wrestler. I think that can be good for everybody listening. Is you want to push yourself, you want to have high expectations, high goals, and at the same time move on from good or bad. If it's a win, you need to go on to the next one to get the next win. If you came up a little short, like you said, then it's what you do in the next one that matters. You obviously had a little passport issue and you couldn't get down to Brazil. Are you getting that resolved by, I think it's October or November, you guys are going to Spain. You looking forward to that trip? I mean, it would be your first time internationally competing.
I got it 3 days after Taylor left.
No.
Luke,
Yes, that's my
wrestling
luck.
world team too. He's a dual world.
Slide on in, Taylor. Slide on in. I couldn't hear you.
He said I was on 2 world teams for wrestling.
Yeah, he might be the first guy ever to be on a USA grappling world team and a USA wrestling world team.
Well,
That's
I'm sorry
special.
for assuming you hadn't traveled, but you didn't have the passport. So I apologize for assuming that. But I do know, I believe that you beat a high level guy in your, talk a little bit about your trials to get on the USA world team in jiu-jitsu, because I believe you beat a pretty high level guy from what Taylor told me.
There was a lot of training that went into it. I got a call 4 days out and Tay said, hey, you want to do this world team trial? So it's just spur of the moment. I was eating some chicken wings. So I'm like, all right, get in shape now and go take care of business. So I went out there and figure first match, it was last year's world champion. People were like telling me how good like this guy was. And I really don't respect a lot of people. You got to prove it to me like when you go out there. So I went out there, and if you don't respect jiu-jitsu, don't get me wrong, you could get caught up in shit. But I feel like I know what I'm capable of, even though like people in the back saying this guy's like a world champ. Like you got to know what you're capable of when you go out there and get to what you're good at. But you also got to like respect them. But no, I mean, there's a lot of training, but in the end, it's you versus him. So I mean, he has 2 arms, 2 legs. Why is he different from me? You know, it's.
I feel like you're giving great mindset advice, which of course is important. You can have all the talent and abilities in the world, and if you don't have the mindset, you could still end up not where you want to be. So that's great mindset, particularly for elementary school wrestlers. I know you guys train the young wrestlers there to have that mindset, no matter who the person is across from them, even if they're a higher ranked person, they still have to compete against you. You're not just competing against them, they're competing against you. In my mind, you almost had an advantage going up against the world defending champ in your first bracket. And that is the fact that you could hit him hard, hit him when you were fresh. And obviously once he's out of the way, which you defeated him, then you kind of take that spot in a way.
Yeah. I mean, everybody has a plan until they actually feel your power. Like Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until you punch them. Well, the same thing is like a shot. Like, people don't understand what you're capable of until you go out there and they actually feel that. So, I mean, sometimes like people like, I guess, underestimate you until you got there. Like, holy shit, I didn't know you were a kid. But you also, I don't know, dude, it's just a different world.
And so for the India Dojo shop gym, both you guys, you have 4 people on the team going over to Spain. For you, what's your mindset? Taylor corrected me, you've competed on 2 world wrestling teams before. So having that international experience, how does that help you going into this one with the mindset?
I'm just going to go out there, win the world title, vacation a little bit, and maybe learn a little Portuguese.
Okay. I mean, you got a game plan at least. So that means that once you win the world title, you're going to stay over there for a couple of days. You're not coming right home, which is
afterwards. But yeah, that experience is going to come in handy when I go out there. But you should take it one match at a time. Like, no matter if you're fighting a first year guy, second year guy that's experienced, international guy, he's from Iran, wherever he's from. If you go out there and treat each guy the same and don't overlook anybody, then I feel like I can go out there and win a world title.
Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you very graciously for talking about your MMA pro debut and also the USA grappling team coming up. You've predicted it. You're going to win a world title. It's going to be great to have you on after that trip to kind of talk to you about it. I think since we're talking about the Spain trip, we can say it's been a great interview. We can maybe bring Taylor back on to talk about his prediction of that trip as it's coming up. I appreciate you, Gavin. Thanks for giving us time.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, buddy. Taylor, I guess we're doing a double interview. We talked about your pro debut, but with talking to Gavin about his pro debut, it became about the team. So let's talk just a little bit about the teams coming up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm setting my sights on the world championship. I mean, that's why you go to win. You don't go for anything else. I think that, it's a blessing in disguise, me going up to 84 kilograms. That's where I do my best wrestling. That's where I beat the best guys in college. I beat a lot of guys that were ranked very high. A couple guys that were, in the national semifinals this year in Division I, multiple Division II All-Americans. So, I think that that's where I do my best wrestling. I'm really going to put on a hard camp, even though we wrestle every single day. But, I'm going out there to win. I know Tanner's going out to win. Gavin's going out to win. and Toby's a big man, he's out there when he's we're all hard to handle. We train really hard. That's one thing I realized going to Brazil was, they're all very good and I have so much respect for all of them, but we're really good too, and I think that people were always, my mom and my girlfriend said before I went there, the grass isn't always greener. And I tell you what, home is home and nothing's better than home. Never will be. But, the grass isn't always greener. It was a great atmosphere, but we can do it here. We can build it here and we can have world champions here. And there's no reason why we can't. So one thing I wanted to add though, I've always wanted to compete on Team USA. I envy Gavin because he's been on, the wrestling world team, which is like the cream of the crop. And if he chooses to do senior, he will be the Olympic champion. There's nobody that will beat him. But how about, LFA, what was it, 130, 139?
Yeah.
Niagara Falls.
Mm.
Fred Rodriguez, a Fargo champion, #1 in the country, 3-time Michigan State champion, wrestled at Oklahoma, 2-time JUCO champion, 5 amateur belts, 2-0 as a professional fighter. Gavin takes him on for his pro debut.
Yeah.
Right. And then we got guys like Bo Nickel. We got guys like, and he won't say it, right? And we have guys like Bo Nickel and all these other wrestlers running around fighting guys that look like they just got pulled off a Lowe's stock shelf, and it's ridiculous. And it gets to a point where it makes the sport not fun, like what's next? Just the old Bellator contract, sign him, give him a couple cans and then, see where his career goes. So I have nothing but respect for him. And I just wanted to, throw that in because everybody saw that, very rarely does your stock go up when you lose. But in this case, it did because I'd say he's the first wrestler in 10, 15 years that's decided to actually fight somebody,
Oh, yeah.
And not just a wrestler. I'm a wrestler, but he's a different caliber of wrestler, He's in the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. So it was very inspirational to see, two wrestlers of that caliber, put on the line and get at it and have a war. So I wanted to make a note of that.
Well, I appreciate you making a note of that on behalf of like you said, there's 4 brothers going over to Spain, the 3 Cahills and the Teasdale add-on brother, because I know he's a brother to you guys, which is wonderful. That's why I think having him on the show to talk about it, I was so impressed that he landed a knee, 10 seconds to go. Like he jumped in against a good, very good quality opponent who had the better MMA experience. And I think like we've seen this, I think when a fighter, particularly in MMA, is willing to challenge themselves early, it helps out later. You mentioned Bo Nickel. We all know the Dana White Contender Series. They could have matched him up against somebody who was 5-0 or 7-1.
They signed him to the UFC. But
Yeah,
they didn't.
Yeah, they could. Oh, there's even that. They could have just signed him right to the UFC. But so matchmaking does make a difference. I think Gavin took a better approach by taking an opponent who obviously, like you, ran down his accomplishments, the opposite of a slouch, a very well accomplished guy who's now 3-0. Hats off to him, obviously, and it's good that he's taking tough opponents. But I think you said something really cool about the shop and India Dojo. Super camps are wherever you build them. This idea that super camps have to be in Florida, have to be at Jackson Wink. The reality is you are making the shop in India Dojo world caliber. I know it already is. And like you said, you're going to go out and get world championships, and it's got those 2 camps are going to become super camps. It's a beautiful thing to see it happen.
We believe in the plan that Danilo lays out, and we work hard. And like super camps are bullshit. You need guys that care about you, guys that genuinely want to see you win, and guys that don't have an ego. And like I said, if one of us loses, we all lose. It's not. We're not rooting against each other and trying to get the other down because we want to have more success. And those big camps, they are like that. And at the end of the day, am I going to get better wrestling Gavin Teasdale, or am I going to get better wrestling Dustin Poirier? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So what the hell would I go down there for?
Yeah.
And that's just one example, but that's the truth. So yeah, we can do it here, and we're going to prove it.
And I think that's a beautiful thing. I'm so honored and thrilled to be along for the journey, interviewing you guys and kind of seeing the growth and the progress you're all making. Really hats off to Tanner. He's been on the show one time before. I didn't realize he was jumping in on the USA team. I know he's currently wrestling D1. So spectacular thing for all the Cahills and Gavin Teasdale. Thanks so much to Gavin in the background. Thank you, sir. Gavin coming on.
I got one more question to ask you.
Sure.
Do you think I look big at 135 for my first fight with you guys, 247?
Did I think you looked big?
Yeah, I like the weight class.
I mean, I think you looked good. You're talking about T Fry. He was taller and skinnier than you, right?
They said I was cutting too much weight and they suspended me. So that's what I had to deal with right before the fight. They said I was like weight cutting. Then 3 days out, I had to get like a brain MRI or something. So I got like a call from this medical lady saying, if you don't get this done, then like the fight's off. So I want to wait.
Wow.
I want to wait down to 125. So I think the fight's off. Then I end up getting up to, and then they said the fight's back on. But I wouldn't have had to dealt with all this like MRI, this like back shit if there wasn't for saying that I cut weight. But I don't know.
And then
I don't know what the commissioner saw on that. But.
To add on to that, it happened before that with the amateur fight against Tim Bailey, and then I know that he didn't pay any attention to it, but to me it made me dumber because why would he be afraid of a guy that never really won a college wrestling match when he just fought that guy? You know what I mean? It's kind of crazy. Stout guys are crazy, man. The stout guys are crazy.
I was gonna fight on that card at the casino up there in Washington.
Yeah.
But then I wasn't allowed to fight below 135. I was like, who the hell made this up? Oh, well, this guy said you're under suspension for this. Then he told me to begin with, if I sign this paper, the suspension is going to be lifted. Never ended up emailing it to me. And then I told Ryan Middleton or somebody I'd take this fight. Then they said I can't go below, I think it was like 137 or something crazy like that. And I only weigh like around 143 naturally.
Yeah. So I know the behind the scenes stuff. And just to be clear, I believe you're talking about Pennsylvania Commissioner Serb, and certainly not somebody from 247. And if anybody knows in Pennsylvania, UFC themselves, Dana White has said it's very difficult. He would love to bring fights to Philly and Pittsburgh. He's done it before, but every time he does, there's problems with Serb. That's the constraints we are under, being 247 being in. I appreciate you sharing that. Obviously, it's sad to say. That's why sometimes Pennsylvania becomes a challenge for fighters who, whatever it happens to be, like you identified. I think at one point it would be great if there's a commissioner in Pennsylvania who sort of understands how to be more accommodating and more helpful. And maybe that'll happen at some point. But for now, obviously, Commissioner Serb sometimes makes rules and rulings that really, mess with fighters. And then also promotions, because promotions lose fights based on him. Absolutely.
I mean, 3 days before you're supposed to fight, then the commission says you're suspended, so you need to get this done. Like, come on, 3 days out, like at least give me a week and a half, maybe even like a week at minimum.
Well, I guess that even shows more of your mindset, because you're talking about the fight poster that's actually above Taylor's head, and you still went in there and got a really nice win. So I know you've got the mindset to push through, but you're absolutely right. Compared to wrestling tournaments where, from my understanding, they run pretty like the same, they kind of have the same feel and the same rules. If anybody doesn't know, every commissioner, we've seen California have a different rule when they moved John Jones out to fight in California because of the picograms. He couldn't fight in Vegas. Every commissioner has their own rules. And unfortunately, that really does affect what fights happen and those type things. So I'm sorry that happened to you, but I'm glad you're doing okay. Sure.
Because we're rolling on this,
Sure.
you wouldn't believe the stuff we had, the hoops we had to jump through before the LFA fight in Niagara Falls. I mean, on Tuesday, we drove over 350 miles through Pittsburgh and completed every single physical, completed a CAT scan on the brain. We had to have Ed Soros pay for the neurological exam.
The MRI, like the MRI blood work, like an eye exam. And there was one other thing.
Things that would take weeks. Damon Hoffman, shout out to Damon Hoffman. He's the man, Doc Damon. But it's just the runaround sometimes you get. Holy shit.
Dude, there's so much back stuff that goes into these fights that people don't see. Like wrestling, you go out there, you throw a sling with a headgear on. But in this, there's so many obstacles you have to jump through to even get in that octagon. It's like they don't want it in the first place. And then you're on a weight cut, so you're just pissed off at everybody.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, we just going back 2 years. That's why Dana White created Fight Island on Yas Island in Abu Dhabi, because with the COVID restrictions, it was impossible. Of course, they had a couple of fights in Florida under Governor DeSantis, but yeah, it does show. It's weird to say it, but it shows how politics impacts fighting, because a governor appoints the commissioner. So the commissioner of Pennsylvania responds to the governor. So it's really a political situation. Whereas in Florida, they allowed the UFC to come down during COVID because he was more open. You're absolutely right. There's a ton behind the scenes. The matchmaker for 247, Jim Mooney, just did a great show on Pittsburgh podcast, which I thought was a good one, talking about some of the behind the scenes stuff that people don't even realize are going on. So
Jim's the man.
he is. And you guys are both fantastic. I appreciate you guys coming on. I love the fact that we covered both of your pro debut in MMA and both of your guys' upcoming USA World Grappling Tournament. So thrilled for you guys. Can't wait to see what happens. Best skills to everybody. Congrats to the shop and India Dojo for the success you guys are having. Keep putting in the hard work. Can't wait to see what happens to you. And thanks for everybody out there that's been watching MMA Fancast. And watching Gavin Teasdale and Taylor and Tanner and all those guys. It's just incredible. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks again, Luke.
Thank
See
you
you later.
guys. Can't wait to see you later. Have a good one.
You too.
All right.